So I'm sure by now you realize that celebrities have come out of the woodworks to respond to this Ukrainian crisis. Some of that legitimate, maybe some of it not, and we'll get into the less legitimate, but I believe it's worthwhile in jumping into some of those responses. Among them is Daily Wire's Matt Walsh, who will never be called by me sweet daddy and should never be called by any man sweet daddy, by the way. So now Matt thinks we should be fully concerned about what's going on in our local shopping mart and with shopping carts, but not what's going on in the Ukraine. I agree with Matt so much, it pains me to say that I think Matt is mostly wrong here. His stance on the US's involvement in the Ukraine is, I think, a little short-sighted. So to be fair, Matt isn't only deeply concerned with shopping carts here, he is deeply concerned with, I think, a legitimate argument. But let's jump into that argument a little bit. So I've heard him multiple times discuss what he calls a slippery slope argument, how it's a slippery slope to defend a foreign country that does not have the power nor the will to defend themselves. So he asks, should American parents have to send their sons to die for Ukrainian citizens, and why should we spend trillions of dollars on foreign wars? Well, how about we go to the actual oath taken by enlisted soldiers, which says, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend our Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Or we could speak to those soldiers who would largely tell you that they are glad to risk their lives to defend the helpless like those in the Ukraine. Do we really want a group of soldiers that would do anything other than that? I mean, I've heard Matt critique the recent woke military commercials that we just talked about at the intro to the show with the gay pride activist with the two moms that's about self-discovery rather than freedom. Our soldiers have stereotypically been the type who would say, my life for yours, and that's what makes them heroes. Now, it should be stated that no one is calling for American forces to be sent yet. So the real question is not, should we help? It's clear, I think, that we should. The question is, to what degree? And what degree will determine whether or not we actually send our sons and daughters over to the Ukraine. So I think it's a question that needs to be had and is not so easily brushed away by mere isolationist, conservative, which I would call quasi-conservative, comments, because I'm not really sure that the historical conservatism that I've grown up with and am used to would say some of the things that I hear conservatives saying now and be deeply isolationist. So suffice to say, I think that there is no question as to whether or not we should help. The question is do we involve our military forces? And then I think we have a nuanced discussion there with at what point in time do we have to say, yes, this is a time for us to make good on that oath. And whenever we see something that truly is a threat to democracy, even if it's in the Ukraine, and I mean democracy writ large, the idea of democracy, the fact that tyrants can go in unopposed and take over whatever they want, and then only when they cross our borders will they finally be a threat. And then us realizing that it may be too late at that point in time to realize that that's a threat. But there are other, way less thoughtful takes on what's going on in the Ukraine and the responses people are having to them. So the first one I have to show you is a 9021 actress who thought that she could end Putin simply with poetry. Here's that.
Dear President Vladimir Putin, I'm so sorry that I was not your mother. If I was your mother, you would have been so loved, held in the arms of joyous light. Never would the stories plight the world unfurled before our eyes, a pure demise of nations sitting peaceful under a night sky. If I was your mother, the world would have been warm, so much laughter and joy, and nothing would harm. I can't imagine the stain, the soul-stealing pain that the little boy you must have seen and believed, and the formulation of thought quickly taught that you lived in a cruel, unjust world. Is this why you now decide no one will get the best of you?
Okay, so look, I think the truth is that if that woman was Putin's mother, I think we know what would happen. Putin would be wearing a dress, or Putin never would have had the chance to be welcomed into the world because he would have been aborted. Now, some people wish that had happened. This goes back to the whole argument of should we have killed Hitler if he was a baby, if we could time travel, and the ethics behind that. But since we're not going to jump into that at all today, I think suffice to say, the one thing that we can come away with from this recitation of beautiful poetry is this one simple fact, that right now, this 90210 actress's attempt to stop Russian soldiers has temporarily been effective, because right now they are dying with laughter. So, crisis averted.
You can catch brand new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Uberman every Monday and weekly bonus episodes to keep you thinking throughout the week. But you have to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like this video and share it with friends.